Well, I think we are officially ready to roll. Welcome to the Port Washington Public Library. Good evening, good evening. We are live on the interweb, as we jokingly say, and the program is called Inside the Musician's Mind. Format is based loosely on a show that you may have seen called Inside the Actor's Studio, with a nod to the questionnaires of James Lipton and Bernard Pivot and Marcel Proust. And just a little background, as a lifelong music enthusiast, collector, and a historian, I have often wondered what makes my favorite musicians, arrangers, composers, lyricists, conductors tick. Why do they do what they do? How do they best do what they do? Basically, what goes on inside the musician's mind. So we plan to venture into what promises to be interesting, fascinating, and possibly unusual places. And we also plan on taking all of you along for the ride. I say we, particularly because tonight the library is delighted to have a special guest presenter with us and host for this evening's episode. Our guest host is coming up on 50 years in professional radio. Is that brilliant or what? For 22 years, he has covered your meals on Sunday on WFUV with the Sunday Breakfast and the Sunday Supper. He has interviewed so many musical luminaries: Bonnie Raitt, Leon Russell, Duncan Sheik, Randy Newman, Linda Ronstadt, just to name a few. I am delighted that he is going to be joining us tonight to interview Nellie McKay. Please welcome Mr. John Platt. So before Nellie comes out, we can talk about what you're up to these days, which is kind of fun and exciting and cool.
I can be the opening act.
You're the opening act.
So news headlines, news flash, Sunday Supper, which has been on hiatus from this past summer, is going back on the air. It will return on Sunday, March 10th from 5 to 6 p.m. And at the same time, I'm launching a website. I actually have incorporated as a not-for-profit, the New Folk Initiative. And along with that, I have a website which is going live. It's still under construction, called newfolk.org. And it will be a place for me to bring some other things beyond Sunday Supper on your radar, which is a series I do at Rockwood Music Hall. Some of the stuff over the archives, you mentioned some of those artists that I've interviewed over the years, playlists, concert calendars, blog posts, and things like that to, kind of be able to extend my energies into other areas. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Now, you're calling it's New Folk,
yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier. There's so much great new music being made as well, and I imagine you're going to be
well, it will be a combination of old favorites and new discoveries as well. I mean, there's a wealth of talent out there, and I hope that part of the the mission statement, if you will, is the propagation and promotion of folk talent, or something to that effect. So
excellent.
One of the people who helped me craft it is in the audience. So
there you go. So you've been. You've been on hiatus, but you've obviously been listening to music. What does clue some folks in? What's exciting you lately? What are some of the things that have been making you say,
that's
wow?
the hard thing, because,
yeah, absolutely.
There's so many things. I'm drawing a blank. I mean, this is what happens.
I know, it's true. There really is. There's so much out there that sometimes you just sort of, But we've been seeing you at the Landmark.
Right around the corner where I've been at home, and and I think other places as well. I was just at the Outpost in the Burbs in Montclair on Friday to see David Bromberg. So
oh wow!
I was very familiar with this, but I'm looking forward to going to see Dog and Dell. I think at the Landmark. David Grisman and Del McCurry. That's going to be March 21st, I think. So. There's a wealth of music on stage and on the radio and online and everywhere.
And we should probably mention, I'm sure you will get to it later as well, but we should probably mention too, speaking of live venues in the area, my father's place is back.
It's back.
Round of applause for Epi, the tenacity I mean, it's just unbelievable.
He just won't go away.
No, we're glad, but.
No, yeah, it's really quite a comeback, and I know that Nellie is going to play there this Saturday or Friday? Friday, March 1st. So I think she's getting, this is her warm-up today.
Yes, and he's not here, but we want to thank Epi, too, for extending to us the ability to have some of the acts that are coming to my father's place, to have them be here to visit us for Inside the Musician's Mind. So that's a really nice thing that Epi was.
Alice Howe, that's the name that comes to mind.
Which one?
Alice Howe, H-O-W-E.
Alice Howe.
Yeah,
okay.
she's really fine. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. So are we?
She's ready. I think
she's ready. All right. Are we ready to go, guys? Do we see? All right. I will let you do the honors.
Okay. Please welcome, wherever she is, Nellie McKay. You cleaned up nice.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, I'm not James Lipton. I don't have my stack of blue index cards. I have a few yellow ones so I can read. And did you know that James Lipton is 92 years old?
No kidding.
Go figure. So that's what I want to be when I grow up.
How do you explain it?
How do I explain it?
Well, who goes and who stays?
Oh, boy. That's an existential comment. We could spend, a whole hour just on that.
It makes no sense. I know healthy people that just go. There was recently a guy who was just in San Francisco. Apparently, a friend was telling me afterwards, he was real good, defending the poor and trying to keep people out of prison. He went at 59. I mean, he looked like Jackie Chan. He goes, and yet, James Lipton, maybe he doesn't seem like he gets up at 3 a.m. and works out for 2 hours every morning, but maybe he does.
I don't know. He's got this thing going, with the index cards and the desks he sits behind, and
right.
We don't need to do that. But I do, want to cover quickly just some biographical things. You were born technically in London, right?
Technically, yeah.
Well, you didn't live there that long, right?
Well, that's right. That's right. It's a pity in healthcare.
That's true.
The single payer. My mother got a card. She could describe this better, but she had the pre-birth care, and then she wanted to have me at home, so she had a midwife. She listened to Yoko Ono. That's also under single payer. You can listen to Yoko. She gets down on her knees to throw up life. And then afterwards, she had some complications. She had the care. It was great. Why? I don't know why.
But then you had your own Brexit.
We did.
And grew up where?
Well, New York is a nice place. We came to Ridgewood in Queens, and then we came to Harlem. And I remember it's a wonderful place to be poor because the whole place it's a carnival, And I remember my mother, she tried to take me to see Santa at the department stores, and every place she'd wait in line, and I'd cry. And finally, we bumped into Crackhead Santa somewhere near Times Square. And it wasn't just crack, it was booze, it was everything. And I just lit up, and she has this picture of me just in heaven.
All right, we're off to a fine start. So, getting to music, which we have to, and which we want to, were there things that kind of were transformative for you as you were young, getting into music?
Oh, I guess you like music. You like the Fisher-Price?
Yeah?
Yeah. That's nice. Kids, they're so creative, and they get kind of slotted. But my mother had to work because even then, you're not allowed, we were on welfare, but that doesn't pay for diddly. So she always had to work under the table. And I remember one daycare I went, they just set a piece of paper in front of you and a crayon. And, so I would just get in this, and so then even when I'd come home at night, I'd just grab a piece of paper and a crayon, I'd just go back, and, she considers those lost years, which is unfortunate, that's a real shame because there's so much there, and you just get slotted into these, it's a shame.
Well, so you were into the visual arts, obviously, but how about the musical arts?
Yeah, the musical arts, sure, I guess. I don't know when that happened.
Were the things that you were...
Yeah, I got a scholarship, so those really count.
Well, sure.
to a little music school called Bloomingdale School of Music in the Upper West Side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of music was, speaking to you is what I really want to know.
Oh, what kind? A boogie woogie.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like Jerry Lee Lewis. And some of our English friends got very kind of huffy about, we chased him out of our country, and all that. But, I dug the music.
And so were you learning piano at an early age?
Yeah, I was also in a Chuck Berry. I was in all the guys that did the problems, Did I practice? Is that what you
Well,
said?
no, I mean, did you get into piano at an early age?
Yeah, and I used to practice, too.
At what age?
Gee.
I'm looking for an age here.
I'm sorry. Was it
That's
7?
okay.
7 or 8,
Okay.
And then you'd go, and you'd watch the Batman 1966. They used
Yeah.
to show that. That got bumped for the Brady Bunch. I think that started like the chip on my shoulder, I was really upset about that. And then, you watched Cops. Everybody at school watched Cops, and my school was mostly black and Hispanic. Everybody in the morning would do hopscotch to Bad Boys, what you gonna? It's that reggae. It's a reggae theme for a fascist show. That is smart.
Interesting. Okay. This was in Harlem?
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody came to. Yeah, one of the schools I went to was more in Harlem. One was a little lower.
Okay. So, at what point did you see maybe there's a career path for this music thing?
I think it was Cops. I don't know. Yeah, gee, I guess. I was flunking out of everything else. So you just kind of, what can you do? And then you start believing in people. Can I say words here, or is it like you
Say words? Sure.
Can you say? And you start believing in bullshitters.
Oh, okay.
So I'd read about Orson Welles. Lying his way into the French conservatory, right? I just tell my parents, well, that's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
Grades be damned. But I barely got through high school. I don't know why I went to college. I'm still in debt, and I've had luck in life, and I'm a dropout.
But there are
It's
those who
terrible.
would say
I
you're a
know.
success, and
Yeah.
I mean, you caused a huge stir by at the age of 22
Right.
releasing a debut double album on
Right.
Columbia Records.
Yeah.
What gave you the chutzpah to do that?
Well, it's more interesting what went wrong after that.
Well, that's
But-
part of the story.
Yeah, no, I think you have so much chutzpah when you're younger.
Yeah.
You think the world's your oyster, then you learn.
Well, so you got a little bit of pushback.
It's not just from that. I just think it's all, Marjane Satrapi wrote Persepolis, and then that's about her being a kid during the Iranian Revolution. And then she wrote Persepolis 2, and in that she becomes an adolescent and a young adult. And it's all about how, all this war and torture and brutality, she got through that okay. But, one bad relationship almost killed her. And whether that's a personal relationship or it's just you're confronted with the reality of the world professionally and politically, I just think that's why people need meds, which brings us back to single payer.
That's a hot topic right now.
Right, as it should be.
Well, I know that there are a lot of things that matter a lot to you politically, and I think maybe we'll try and get into that as well. But just to spend a little bit of time on the first album, because it really was quite an accomplishment. And you chose Jeff Emmerich as your producer, a guy who was known for producing the Beatles, among many others. What led you to have him as your producer?
Oh, whoa.
What, did I answer the question?
I guess, yeah. I guess, just in case we couldn't work with Jeff, I guess there were other people that we approached. But, yeah, you can't. My goodness.
But why him? There are hundreds of producers that you could have. Was there something about him that you said, this is the guy I want to work with?
Well, that's true. It's not just that, he worked with the Beatles. He is the Beatles. He is of that time, He comes from Crouch End, London. He had a working class childhood, and he got his first reel-to-reel. And then he was working with George Martin as, he was 15, 16. It was incredible.
Yeah, and he was a prodigy himself.
Yeah, and he never did drugs the whole 60s. And so...
How did it get through? Well, maybe that's how it got through.
No, I'll tell you. I think it was during Sgt. Pepper, the White Album.
Yeah.
Not doing drugs.
Yeah.
Problem. He went down to the Abbey Road cafeteria, and him and another engineer smashed every plate in the cafeteria against a wall. better to do LSD.
There were some songs that on that album which were kind of a clue to your elements of your style and what you were trying to ultimately do over your career. Do you have a sense for what they might be? If we were trying to say, well, this was something that I was trying to get into in terms of what I wanted to do musically. Is that clear?
Right. No.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not clear. It's not unclear because of you. It's because I'm sorry. The beginning, though. Well, I heard everything except the beginning. I was thinking about Jeff some more and plates.
What took? Oh, okay. Well, no. I mean, the album had elements of kind of the American Popular Songbook and sort of hip hop and contemporary stuff. I mean, it was really kind of a cross, genre that you were trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah, no, and again, you have more chutzpah just when you're a youngin', and then you get more safe. Success makes you more careful. It's such a pity. But you see it across the board pretty much.
One of the songs was I Want to Be Married.
Right.
And actually, Audra McDonald did a nice cover version of that.
Yeah, hey, that's a nice cover.
Yeah. And, there was a feeling of irony, obviously, in that song.
Yeah.
I noticed that you're still not married, so...
Oh, right. No, but I mean, for sure, I think that song is quite poignant. At the time, it was, and it has two messages.
Okay, and
I'm part of it is, I'm such a dope, and part of it is I just want to listen to Johnny Mathis and eat onions,
make lunches for my Brady Bunches, I think.
Right, Brady Bunches. Well, who's the gal, Marina Abramovic, who, how she has that piece where she's crying, she's eating onions, and she's flogging herself? Well, I do that without the crying, without the onions, but I do it when I'm bored with my dog. I do it with the dog leash. Does that mean anything?
Maybe. Is there something from that first album that you'd be comfortable playing?
For sure. Well, you had suggested one.
Well, do you like that one idea?
The dog song?
Dog song?
Let's do dog song.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just a walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. Yeah, it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong. My life was lonely and blue. Yeah, I was sad as a sailor. I was an angry one too. Then there was you appeared when I was entangled with youth and fear, and nerves jingled, jangled, vermouth and beer were getting me mangled up. But then I looked in your eyes and I was no more a failure. You looked so wacky and wise, and I said, Lord, I'm happy 'cause I'm just a walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. Yeah, it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong. I don't care about your hating and your doubt. I don't care what the politicians spout. If you need a companion, why just go out to the pound and find yourself a hound and make that doggy proud, 'cause that's what it's all about. My life was tragic and sad. I was the archetypal loser. I was a pageant gone bad. Then there was you on time and wagging your tail in the cutest mime, but you was in jail. I said, woof, be mine, and you gave a wail, and then I was no longer alone, and I was no more a boozer. We'll make the happiest home. And I said, Lord, I'm happy 'cause it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go, it's Tom Waits here on the East Coast. It's just me and my dog, having some fun. We can't go wrong. I don't care about your hating and your doubt. I I don't care what the politicians spout. If you need a companion, why just go out to the pound and find yourself a hound and make that doggy proud. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Wow, 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 wow. That's what it's all about. Good dog.
And I guess it's not a coincidence that you do a love song about a dog, is it?
Oh, sure.
What is your relationship with dogs?
Well, well, right now I do, and you know the problem I have my baby. The problem is a dog. They're like a terminally ill child, and once they get up there, it's just you can't leave the house. I never get to go to the library, and I'm in ecstasy here. But I had to have a nap. I'm kind of going off your question here for a moment, but I'm going to come back here. Because I was taking a nap, because we just came in from San Francisco. We didn't get much sleep, and someone gave me a ticket with the car on while I was sleeping there, and I'm not paying $135. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to go to court. And if they say you have to pay it, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't want to pay it. I want to win, and then I'm going to come here and celebrate.
Well,
$135.
no, that's outrageous. But that's also, you know, not a surprise knowing you, because you do, you know, you are true to principles, you know. I mean, this is something you stick up for what you believe in, which was also true, may I add, to your second album, Pretty Little Head.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, sure. But the thing is, I mean, it's just, you know that, to quote Tom Waits, misery is the river of the world, right? You know the history of humankind. And yet, when someone gives you a ticket, particularly when you're in the car, that's just so... I know they have quotas, but I mean, I just... not okay. In a sleepy little dead-end street in Port Washington, it was a literal dead end. I can't believe it. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is crazy.
I know what the world is, and yet the whole way home, I'm going to be like, what?
Fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. Well, I fought my share of tickets too, so I'm with you.
Oh,
okay?
good.
Right.
Have you won?
Yes, actually, most of the time.
Fantastic.
Well, what they do is they drop them down to a lower fine or something like that.
That would be something.
But,
you should come to court with me.
Okay, it's a deal. So that was a self-produced record. And can you tell a little bit about what your role in the studio is like? I mean, what are you like as both a performer and a producer?
Oh, right. Well, producer's nice because natural control freak, and performer. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I've had engineers tell me you should get a real piano player. Yeah. My friend, he's from Austria. My mother always says the Austrians are like Germans without the commitment. But I tell it like it is. You really need a real piano player. But we've never done it.
Is it hard to separate, the mindset as the performer and as the producer? I think about, directors who are able to be, the star as well, the Orson Welles or whoever, to be able to have the two sides of the brain working at the same time.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, because it's not like a money producer. I guess that must get trickier. Or I just think it's nice to be in charge. It's so much more fun to be the boss than the employee. and I don't get a power trip off it. I'm a much nicer person. It's as an employee that you get like a cat, tearing at the screen door and, whacking other cats from the cat perch and stuff. Marking around the house, all the cat stuff.
Another animal imagery here.
Yeah.
When you are recording, do you usually have your songs already road tested before you get to them, to the studio?
Well, that can be tricky. Then it can be very hard to live up to.
Yeah.
Because this is a whole different vibe. This is so energetic. Can't you feel it?
Yeah.
Different from our last interview?
Yeah.
That there are people here.
There are people here.
and
I noticed that.
Yeah, their blood is pulsing.
Yeah.
The vibrations, man.
But for
Dig it.
okay.
This is a be-in. This is happening.
You sound like a hippie.
I love it. Well, we were just in Frisco. You know,
Yeah.
my mom used to take acid and go to the airport and watch the plane lands. So we went by the big old windmills, and she was like, "Yeah, this is where all the love-ins happen."
Now, speaking of your mother, she actually has co-produced a number of your albums.
Right.
I think the first one was Obligatory Villagers. Can you talk about her influence on your artistic decisions and stuff like that?
Oh, well, she's just so smart, you know. I mean, I don't know how. I think it's partly the drugs. And then it's just, there's just a groundedness of caretaking, you know. It's just, it's real, you know. I mean, a lot of the problems in the world, don't they come from people not cleaning their own house? And I'm not putting this on women. I'm saying the men, like, it's just like, if everyone could just take care of their own house, and like just look out for people, and I am not an example of this, you know, but I mean, you know, look out for other beings and other people, and then like do a little art on the side. That's all you need, really. You don't need this mega centralized government, nation state, hierarchy, representative government, really that big a government at all. There's maybe a couple of infrastructure things. You know, you don't need all that. So she just has a very feet on the ground kind of thing. And when you get in the professional world, you see it in movies. I think I always wanted to be Marlo Thomas and that girl, you know, and but what is that? You know, it's just a lot of hairspray, you know, and it's like, you know, and it's the suit and the matching shoes, and it's this fantasy. What is that, and what is that in aid of? And how do you break free of these superimposed fantasies that you see from a young age? We're so far removed. We're so aberrated. We're so far from what our nature actually dictates. It's very difficult. I think about this all the time.
Okay. Your mind works, talk about inside the musician's mind. I mean, your mind is so full of detours. It's kind of scary to stand up here and go, okay, where are we going to go next?
Well, and dead ends. You know, and I didn't make it to, yeah, believe me. But it's like the North Hempstead Animal Shelter.
Yeah.
I didn't get there. This nap was supposed to be 5 minutes, and it turned into a couple hours, and then flapping in the breeze was this.
So did you make it to
ticket.
the animal shelter? Oh.
I didn't, but I did look it up because I was trying to. The hours weren't online.
It's really quite a place. In fact, we
I've heard.
Adopted a cat from there.
Oh, you did?
Many years ago.
Oh.
They have a program called what's it?
Seniors for Seniors.
Seniors for Seniors.
Oh.
And so if you adopt an adult cat and you're 60 years old, which we weren't yet, but was close enough for rock and roll, they give free well care to you for your animal.
Oh, no
And,
kidding.
yeah. So this cat was very mellow in a room with nothing but dogs. So I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. Well, it turns out she's really kind of ADD. That was, but she's still with us after how many years? So anyway.
So there was a senior cat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And they take care of the medical care?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So senior, yeah.
That's incredible.
Sort of like Medicare for all, right?
I guess. I mean, it's killer.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Single pair, for cats, right?
'Cause that's a big thing. A
Yeah.
lot of people, they either surrender their animals, they put them down, or their animals live in pain because they
Yeah.
can't afford. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Because I wanted to just go there when I saw the sign, but I always hate to go in there, single,
Yeah.
because they think you're going to adopt. So I always like to go to. I didn't have time to look up Dollar Tree, Port Washington.
Yeah.
So I like to get a box of toys, and then they think you're surrendering an animal. Then they're really relieved when it's toys. So that's the trick. So I didn't have time. So, but that's great. Got to get the word out about that.
So you're pretty involved with PETA, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big enough celebrity. They've never really, they like the big celebrities,
Bigger than you?
Oh, are you kidding? No, they have the biggest in the world. They have Pamela Anderson, I mean, they have Paul McCartney. So, but yeah, I know great people. I have a friend, Dr. Alka Chandna, And she, every morning when she gets to work, she looks at the undercover footage from laboratories. I know it's not a funny thing, but I always think of her because what a job. Yeah. Jesus Christ, you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you know, you go through all your thing, you drive to work, you say howdy, you have your cup of coffee, and that's what she deals with all day. So I know other undercover investigators there and people who, they burn out. You know, there's compassion fatigue, and it's too much, and they have to take a break. But I've known people since I was little who are working there, really great people.
Well, I know it's been a cause you've been involved with for quite a while. Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, so much of it is the money in politics, and people don't see that as it relates to animals. But if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, if you look at big university money, if you look at smaller industries like cage manufacturers, if you look at big agriculture, which is also the cause of climate change, creating the ocean dead zones, eliminating the biomass that absorbs carbon by the deforestation of the rainforest. And so we were talking about a mutual friend we have in the animal rights movement. I don't know if she's changed on this, but I remember a couple years ago that, you know, I don't think she, I would love to talk to her because I don't think she saw that facet of the Bernie movement, which is that, you know, you can't have this kind of influence in politics and ever create a world where animals, Jesus, where they get even a little better within our lifetime. I mean, you're up against so much money. I mean, if it's just a small group of people who have ever changed the world, that small group of people can't anymore because you're up against so much money. Yeah. You know, I've done lobbying and I've known people who, you know, they've done this their whole lives. You're up against a tsunami of the buckaroos, you know? It's just, so I'd like to talk to her about that.
Okay.
Because people need to see it. It doesn't just apply to how each other and humans in faraway places, but the animals and the environment too.
Well, it is all interrelated, no question about that.
Yeah.
Many of your albums, and in particular the album we were just talking about, Obligatory Villagers, have some pretty potent jazz people playing with you.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Liebman and Phil Woods. Bob Dorough.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel you could hold your own against them?
No. In fact, we asked Phil Woods to do a second take. He said, "Why?" So you don't argue with that. And then Bob Dorough, it was lovely to go to Tokyo with Bob, but you don't really want to share a stage with Bob.
Well, and I wondered if he was at all an influence for you as a lyricist, because he was really known for being able to do these jazz-inflected songs.
Oh, I mean, to write Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that even for the commission. He taught people their multiplication tables.
Yeah.
In Dave Frischberg,
yeah.
You know, they used to perform together. Incredible.
Well,
artists.
Are people like that inspiration for you in terms of your songwriting?
Oh, of course, but also their piano playing.
Yeah.
They're incredible. And I tried to take a lesson off Bob once, but, you know, not too much registered. He taught me the Batman scale, which is actually the major-minor scale. And if you know Batman 66, it's used in a lot of that.
Oh, yeah?
You know.
If you were to think about the people who you look at as an inspiration as a songwriter, who are some of those people?
Oh, you know, just the greats. I mean, Thelonious Monk.
Okay.
Jesus, you know. And he also was an incredible piano player, and he kind of faked it like he wasn't. He could do the stride, he could do Art Tatum,
yeah.
but he kept it simple, which is one of the hardest things to do, particularly when you can play the way he could.
That's a certain type of songwriting, you know. I mean, the jazz playing instrumental. You marry the lyrics and the music together in a way that's perhaps reminiscent of some of the greats in the American Popular Songbook. Do you draw inspiration from any of those in particular?
It's funny because I come in here and I think, oh, this is great, but I just want to hang out in the library.
Yeah.
You know, I finally got here, and I just took a book from American. I was planning on stealing it now, but it was called The American Songbook to Main Street. It's backstage. You guys have got some great books here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much to explore.
Yeah.
You could just read your life away.
Yeah.
You know, Janis Joplin. They say she used to take the smack and sit in a chair and just stare, which doesn't sound like a bad thing at all to me. I don't even need anything. I could just stare my life away, just thinking about the books I've read.
Well, what kinds of books? I mean, what's on your reading list?
Oh boy! Well, now I've gotten back. So we just did a show about Joan Rivers.
Right.
So I gotta just read Joan Rivers' book over and over again. So now I can play. I've got great books to read. You know, I don't know if this is a good. I'm not going to mention anything, but there are things I'd like to finish. Oh, I mean, it's criminal I haven't finished Anna Karenina.
Okay.
But
it's a good book.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
But
Yeah, I don't know.
well, what I'm thinking is, here's somebody who's got this insatiable curiosity. Was it The Elephant's Child that Kipling did about what was it? The Elephant's Child had insatiable curiosity. So.
Oh, yeah. Libraries, I was so chuffed to come, because that's the reason I didn't come and sleep in this parking lot, where I wouldn't have got a ticket. It was so busy.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I've completely lost track of time. Is today Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. What's the library doing so busy on a Tuesday? That's great.
Well, it's Port Washington. It's that kind of a community.
I love that. That's wonderful.
New York City as a subject for your songs, or you know, Home Sweet Mobile Home had some songs that really seemed to really capture some of New York's street life and things like that. Do you take inspiration from what you get from New York?
Oh, for sure. But you know, the street life is diminishing. I mean, thanks to overdevelopment, which is a part of policy. I mean, it comes from the abuse of eminent domain, and it comes from politicians being in the hands of real estate. I think de Blasio takes something like 37% of donations from real estate, and he's not alone in that. You know, Columbia and NYU, I think they're the biggest landowners in New York. You know, they're either wrecking West Harlem, abusing eminent domain, that's Columbia, uptown, or NYU. Oh God. I think everyone knows about NYU versus the history of the village, you know. And I mean, they're just so arrogant, and they just, oh God, I would like to, we don't need universities in New York. Those places should be made housing for the homeless, and we should have a nice city again.
Okay.
Look,
No,
but that's what
no.
you're saying when you're talking about street life. When they build those big glass boxes,
Yeah.
They've done tests on people's, like their
Yeah.
level of
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah.
It diminishes.
Yeah.
You lose the little mom and pops.
Yeah.
You lose the bodegas. I mean, we need stuff like the Small Business Jobs Survival Act. We need rezoning of chain stores. We need a vacancy tax on empty storefronts, and we need commercial rent control as addition to personal rent control. You know, that's not impossible. It's so easy. It's like taking candy from, I don't like that line, but it's so easy. That's not hard to do. It's so obvious. Come on.
No,
Do you want a nice city? Do you want a city with character?
No.
Do you want it like all those great
No.
movies, except maybe with a few less muggings? Then come on, we can do it.
Okay. How many people running as public advocates today in New York
Yeah.
City elections? You should have been there. You know?
Oh, right, no, you know, and there are people, and again, I mean, but you just get so kind of, you just see it again and again that the best financed or connected candidate wins over and over. It's just, it's so rigged, and you know that word can be co-opted by people with nefarious means, but it doesn't mean it isn't true.
Getting back to the music, and that, you know, seriously. I mean, we could go all through, and this is good. But there were 3 albums that kind of dealt with covers. We've talked about you as a writer, but let's talk about you as a person who interprets other people's songs.
Yeah.
Starting with your tribute to Doris Day.
Oh, right, yeah, yes.
Normal was Blueberry Pie.
Yes.
What was your connection with Doris Day?
Oh, well, I was in Baltimore for a protest against the aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a little music store, and there she was on the cover, and, you know, she looked kind of like a blonde version of Marlo Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, let's try this out. And I liked the music, too. It wasn't just the album cover. And so so yeah, so that was, it's just so romantic. I remember as a kid running out of G.I. Jane.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't, I couldn't take the violence. I love that escapism. I think really I'm a gay man. If I can, if I can generalize a little bit, I just, I've been to parties where a friend and I will have a couple of drinks, and he'll whisper to me, he's like, "Oh, here comes Tommy." He says, "I want to marry him." It's just, so yeah, it's like that.
And she's also an animal rights activist.
Uh,
Am I right?
oh yeah, she was way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I mean, she still is in terms of adopting, in terms of the anti-fur movement, which she would Mary Tyler
Yeah.
Moore.
Yeah.
A lot of those gals, yeah.
She's also got, this image of being wholesome, all-American, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Is there a sense that you think people think that of you?
Oh, of wholesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably secretly. Like, I think George Carlin was secretly wholesome.
Yeah.
I think generally the image does not match. So I think Doris Day was secretly, and actually I think it's not so secret, she was not so wholesome.
Yeah.
It's like Oscar Levant said, I knew Doris before she was a virgin.
Yeah.
But I think basically whatever anyone's image is, the truth is the opposite.
Yeah. What do you think people do think of your image? You have,
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have an image. Are you kidding, John? This is very nice of you to interview me, but if I'd wanted a career, I would have had one by now.
gosh,
When I was a kid, what I really wanted was a litter picker-upper. And this is not, I think you might say, oh, that's noble, but it's a little weird. That's what a kid wants to do, is go around picking up litter. I don't know, I'm just kind of a hobo. It's like Bob Dylan. I just ruined this. But somebody, okay. Anyway, he keeps getting picked up for like being a vagrant,
Yeah.
right? And I remember he came to a venue where I played in LA once before, and the kitchen staff was shooing him away. They thought, who's this bum? It's a little bit like, it's like that, but without his money.
Did you ever meet Doris Day? She's still alive.
I talked to her on the phone. She sounded just like Doris Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did she like what you did?
Oh, she was very sweet, but it's probably a little. She did it first and better, so hey, it's all right.
Well, they were terrific songs, and they do stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Now, you did another album, which was more recent songs, which are classics. And maybe I could ask you if you could do one of those now, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
You got the ukulele?
I got the uke, but I would do one of these on piano. I wanted to ask you, though,
Well,
or the audience.
What?
Should it be Everything Happens to Me, or should it be Small Day Tomorrow? Do you have a preference?
No.
No? Do you have a preference? No. No? Okay. I guess we'll see what comes out.
Okay.
Black cats creep across my path until I'm almost mad. I must have roused the devil's wrath, 'cause all my luck is bad. I make a date for golf, and you can bet your life it rains. I try to give a party, and the guy upstairs complains. I guess I'll go through life just catching colds and missing trains. Everything happens to me. I never miss a thing. I've had the measles and the mumps, and every time I play an ace, my partner always trumps. I guess I'm just a fool who never looks before she jumps. Everything happens to me. At first I thought that you could break this jinx for me, that love would turn the trick to end despair. But now I just can't fool this head that thinks for me. I've mortgaged all my castles in the air. I telegraphed and phoned, I sent an airmail special too. Your answer was goodbye, and there was even postage due. I fell in love just once, and then it had to be with you. Everything happens to me.
Okay. Do you want to do something on the uke now, or?
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it just so then I didn't have to get up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what got you into the uke, by the way?
Wait a second. Ayn Rand, how old was she when she passed? Because that's someone who never exercised. No, I'm not picking on her, but I was just reading about her, and she really felt that physical activity takes away from mental activity. She was a thinker.
Okay.
So I mean I think that's often true, but again, that's someone I think she lived quite long. I don't know. I don't know. I was just wondering.
Google it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, I'd mentioned the album My Weekly Reader, which was kind of your tribute to the 60s.
Right.
And were those things that you, well, where did you discover those songs? They're not of your time.
Yeah. Well, partly it's my mama in San Francisco who used to go out to the Ark in Sausalito. She saw a new Moby Grape. She used to go to, what's the places like the Fillmore or the Cow Palace. She saw the Beatles at Candlestick Park, their last concert in America, and she would get into places by saying she was Janis Joplin. So partly it came from her, and then I guess there were a couple that I knew, but my taste is more prosaic. I have bad taste.
What do you consider prosaic?
Well, for instance, for an album about the 60s, I wanted to do the theme song from the Walt Disney movie, The 3 Lives of Thomasina. So that's not exactly drugs and politics.
Well, the choices were pretty interesting because some of them were pretty well known, and then some of them were kind of offbeat, I mean, you recorded Hungry Freaks Daddy.
Yeah.
By Frank Zappa with Dweezil, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. I think he's working out a lot in that solo.
Yeah. But there's some that are more well-known, I think, as well. And the ukulele seems to lend itself to a certain sort of song, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, the uke, it is lovely. It was actually, might have been George Harrison's favorite instrument. Mm-hmm. He tended to carry 2, and he would give one if he liked someone. He would give them a copy.
Yeah.
I sometimes do that with Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, but they're much less happy to get it.
Well, it's hard to think of a uke song being sad, isn't it? I mean,
right. It's like Steve Martin with the banjo, death, war, and famine. Yeah.
So why don't you do something quick for us, on the uke?
Well, you requested a satirical song, or there's one that uses the harps, the harmonica.
Oh, well, your choice.
Gee, I mean, I kind of, I'm thinking, because we're talking about the 60s, can I do the one with the harps? Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Why, thank you. What's your name again? Tony, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I should have known you'd bid me farewell. There's a lesson to be learned from this, and I learned it very well. Now I know you're not the only starfish in the sea. If I never hear your name again, it's all the same to me. But I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Ha 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 ha. You never cared for secrets I'd confide. To you I'm just an ornament, something for your pride. Always running, never caring, that's the life you live. Stolen minutes of your time were all you had to give. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. The stories in the past with nothing to recall. I've got my life to live and I don't need you at all. The roller coaster ride we took is nearly at an end. I bought my ticket with my tears, that's all I'm gonna spend. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Thank you, Tony.
And who wrote that song?
Well, it was written by Paul Simon.
Yeah.
But obviously the harp is from Bob Dylan's I Want To.
Right.
Want You. It's always nice to put them together because I think it irritates them both.
Yeah.
And it was, of course, performed by a group called The Circle.
Right.
Cyrkle, which was spelled that way by John Lennon. So it's
Right,
kind
and
of everybody.
your mother probably knows this trivia. The Circle were produced by Brian Epstein, or managed by Brian Epstein.
Oh, no.
And when the Beatles went out on tour, I think it was 65 or 66, the Circle were an opening act.
Oh, really?
I saw them in Philadelphia, not San Francisco. But,
Really? You
yeah.
did? Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Where?
JFK Stadium.
Oh, my goodness.
So-
So could you hear anything?
Not really.
No, that's what Mama said. And how long was the set?
The Beatles set was about 25 or 30 minutes.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I miss
there were three opening acts: the Circle, Bobby Hebb, and a group from Boston called Barry and the Remains.
Oh.
And remember them? And also known as Larry and the Leftovers. And it was a dark and stormy night. There were literally thunderclouds in the sky, and they can't rain, right? I mean, what would happen if it started to rain? So it didn't rain. You know, they got their 25 minutes in, and Paul McCartney went, "This will have to be our last number," and pointed to the sky, and everybody, got out of the stadium as fast as they could, and it poured on the way home. That's my story,
Wow.
and I'm sticking to it.
You were there.
I was
So
there,
great.
and my sister was able to whistle, because I couldn't do it, so she put her fingers in, and
Oh.
that
Where-
stood out.
How high were you up in the stadium?
Actually, not so far, but that's
Really?
yeah. We're getting off track here.
Oh, no, that's great. Did you think about hopping over the gate and rushing Paul?
Oh yeah,
No?
no.
Oh, okay. I guess so.
I just want to touch on some of the stuff that you've done that's not actually, stage and screen kind of stuff. I mean, you got a Theater World Award for
it's
Three Penny Opera
Oh, thanks.
on Broadway, which was quite something. I mean, quite an accomplishment. And you had Alan Cummings and Jim Dale and all kinds of people. Were you at all intimidated by that, or?
Oh, not nearly enough.
Yeah.
No, again, you're a young punk.
Yeah.
It's just, you take everything for granted. It's wonderful. I wish that could have kept up.
Well, I mean, did you?
I really appreciate this. This is really nice.
Well, you also did a show called Old Hats, which is off Broadway with Bill Irwin and David Shiner.
Yeah.
And you had kind of an interesting role in that. They're clowns, essentially, those two guys.
Yeah. Incredibly limber.
Yeah.
Yeah. And funny. That was lovely to do. It's nice to have it's nice to have Steady Freddy, and it's nice to have a steady gig psychologically.
But what was your contribution, do you think, to Old Hats?
I don't know. I guess music. I think maybe we had a more people said there was a good kind of tension, just in terms of the different dynamics, and that's good. That's that should exist. Otherwise, it's kind of lax.
Do you feel that your influence, your experience with Old Hats or Three Penny Opera influenced how you became a stage performer after that?
Oh well, I just find with theater you have such luxury of time, and we've never had that in our shows.
Yeah.
So I just get very envious of that comparatively,
And you've also done some movies. We don't need to go into all that. I mean, but interesting to me is the cabaret pieces. I guess that's what you call them. That you've done the sort of musical bios, right, of Barbara Graham,
right,
and
yeah.
Billy Tipton,
Yeah.
And Joan Rivers and Rachel Carson.
Right. It'd be fun all in the same show.
well, that's just what they're 4 different shows.
Right.
What do they have in common?
Oh, I think yes, they all take place largely in the 50s, and I think that makes sense because the bomb and World War II and the population explosion and color TV, so much changed then, and there's a reason so much still focuses on then. It's just it's not just I think. Yeah, and so much of the 60s came out of that, and that's why the album is called My Weekly Reader. It's because that's what all those kids were reading, and they were kind of rejecting, even as they had a kind of sweetness and an innocence about them. And that led to questioning this world that we're born into, that it doesn't have to be this way. And that's on every plane. I mean, say when you look at any candidate from the 2 major parties, they'll say stuff about, terrorism, right? But war is terrorism. So a war on terrorism is a contradiction in terms. So if you're looking for the 60s as brought to life through a candidate within those 2 parties, you're not going to find it because it was bigger than that, It was more far-reaching and far-thinking than that. And you also see it in the freedom of speech movement, because it's no coincidence that that idea of liberation and freedom came about at the same time as so much civil rights and women's rights and gay rights and environmental rights and American Indian rights and the beginnings of animal rights and a vegetarian movement and all anti-war movement. It came about because of that sense of freedom. So when you put a lid on what people can say, when you're constantly constricting our ability to express ourselves, you are kind of dooming yourself to failure because you're limiting the imagination, and nothing is more important.
So as you settle on a topic to do one of your cabaret pieces, what kind of preparation do you have? I mean, are you digging deep in terms of research, or are you intuitive about it, or what?
Oh, way too much research. Oh, God, I get into research. I should have been a librarian.
I think
so
they have a place for you here. But.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest problem with the Rachel show. I think it was the hardest show because it was based not just on a book, but on all her books, which are dry as dust. I mean, they're great. I love Rachel, but she's a hard read. And then there's all this correspondence, and then there's books about her, and she wrote the introduction to a book called Animal Machines, which was an early expose of factory farms written in the 1960s. She wrote this introduction right before she died, horrified at the world as it was even getting worse right before she died. And of course, you read this and you're like, nothing has changed. And there was too many words. And also the subject matter is hard to make entertaining, but we tried our damnedest.
If you could pick, a certain era to be in, a certain city to live in, wherever, any century, any decade, what would it be?
Oh, I mean, that's hard. And it depends who you are,
Yeah.
So, Yeah, gee, I guess it would all pretty much be in the 20th century.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the 30s, but again, it depends where you are and who you are, and
30s New York?
Yeah, no, maybe Hollywood. Maybe I could be, what's her name? Una Merkel.
Wow, that's an obscure reference.
Yeah. She's a Sagittarius. It was her birthday in December, and TCM did a whole day of her movies.
Okay. Did you find them on TCM or someplace?
Oh, TCM is the greatest. Look, I knocked a lot of doors in 2016, and I was calling my Hollywood friends, who are really just people who made the mistake of giving me their phone number a long time ago, and I was like, can you help out in any way? Can you lend your name? And they'd be like, well, I don't want to get in the way of the premiere. And I was like, how can you think of your career at a time like this? Which explains my career. But then, I'd get off the phone, and they'd be getting to their trailer, and I'd be getting to a trailer, but this trailer would be in such disrepair. And they'd have a dog in the yard standing its own feces on a 3-foot chain, and you'd have there's the despair of poverty, there's the hopelessness of poverty, and inside they'd be watching the TV with all this crap that comes from Hollywood. I mean, utter garbage. And the people on the coasts, a lot of them, they do kind of look down on Middle America. And what are the engines of these coastal economies? It's this crap. Oh my God. And it's not a pleasant image, but I read it recently. They talk about the rape of the mind, and it's just, God, what do you have? 300 channels of utter garbage. Maybe you have 30 that are maybe okay. That's an exaggeration, I'm sure. And then you have TCM. There's some other decent old movie channels, but I wish people would get more into the old. My Uncle Mike, he lay dying, and he was still watching one of those, just one of those macho shows. And I was like, Uncle Mike, these are your last hours. Couldn't we put on some Ralph Bellamy?
And does that explain your wardrobe choices too?
Oh, sure. No, you don't want to. I couldn't be a hippie. I tried it with the '60s album. It doesn't. I need fake stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you seem to have a really distinct fashion sense,
Oh, well, artifice is lovely. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there can be I don't know.
I want to, before I forget, ask you about Sister Orchid.
Oh, yeah.
This is your most recent album.
That's right.
It's also an album of covers, but very different from your earlier ones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we did it kind of in solitude. It's a solo album.
Yeah, I mean, you should check our website. I won't take the time now, but there's really an image that's amazing that you kind of conjuring up for the album. And maybe you could sum it up in a few words, what you're trying to accomplish musically.
Right. Well, I was thinking of Pacifica, where my mom grew up, and she calls it the armpit of the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
It was the armpit of the Northwest. I messed it up. Okay. Anyway, there's a. I was just reading about sailors who were shanghaied near San Francisco, and there's always been that sense of criminality, close to the water, in the fog. And my grandfather was a criminal too. He went to San Quentin, but of course we're all criminals. I mean, we're all complicit, And the more it's circular. Your own thinking is circular, because the more you don't want to be a part of the criminality of the larger system, the more you appreciate the criminality of your own life. And I do know people that are pretty close to saints, but I'm not one of them. And I'm a miserable sinner, not only in the kind of fun psychological sense, or personal sense, but in a political sense, in that we consume products of torture. In The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers, she wrote that everything we possess is a product of another's suffering. She wrote that in the 30s. I mean, that was very ahead of her time. To be so aware of that. And people had so much less then. They hadn't been taught to be consumers. So I suppose it's about that. It's about, I really should have played Small Day Tomorrow, because it's about that sense of, what are you after? What is all this ambition? What is this so-called civilization? And don't you kind of do want to hit the road? And I talk about artifice, but that's more in regards to other people. In and of yourself, it's wonderful to be real. It's wonderful to be a bum. I mean, sometimes I feel like, say, Jack Kerouac, but I can't really get away with that as a female in myself. I'm not accepting of myself as Patti Smith, you know? I want to be Doris, so it takes hours, you know? But personally, when you're alone, you know, it's good to find that sense of freedom, and it's the quest, and you probably never get there, but you're on the road to nowhere, probably.
I'm processing it, you know. It's so much to process.
It's so nice talking to you.
I mean, I'm not making fun of you. I mean, it's just, I'm thinking through. Whew, there's so much information that she's putting out there, and I feel like I'm going to have somebody give me homework, or, you know.
I'll tell you what, I say this album is more, it's less on the road and it's more Big Sur.
Okay.
Because that's kind of it's the flip side of the kind of bravado of On the Road.
Okay.
It's when he was kind of confronting where is this leading, and it's in the same part of the world where I kind of envision this album.
Well, of course, Jack Kerouac had a Long Island connection too, but
He was from out here, and this is
he's
where
Northport.
his mama and his cat were. Is that right?
From Port Washington, or
Or was it from Long Island?
from
though?
Northport, I think. But
Oh, Northport. Where's that?
that's farther east, but it's.
Oh, okay, but it's in Long Island.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Well,
on the North Shore of Long Island, so there you go.
oh, fantastic.
Okay, we've established that.
Yes.
Just a couple more things. If you could name 3 songwriters or performers that you have never worked with before, living or dead,
Right.
you know, who would you want them to be?
Oh, if I could meet them?
Yeah,
Or be?
yeah, let's say that.
Meet them? Oh, shoot.
Or that, you know, you just say, well, this is somebody that really matters to me, you know?
Whew. Well.
Just a short question.
Yeah, right. Wow. Well, I mean, I kind of like Billie Holiday's, you know, whole way of life, you know, which seems is like a funny thing to say. But again, she was an outsider, you know. She wasn't trying to prove herself, you know. She had her. It came from somewhere, and it came from her life. But she had her voice, and then you just see pictures of her cooking with her dog in the kitchen, you know. And it's just like she wasn't ambitious. And you know, so many go-getters. And sometimes I'm on tour with them, and I can hear them on the back seat on their phones, working on their careers, and it freaks me out. And I shouldn't get too specific, but you know, it's just sometimes you go really interesting places. I don't even think they really absorb the places because they're still on their phones, working on their bloody careers. It drives me nuts. I don't feel like Billie even now would be on the phone. So okay, that's one. Christ. Gee, I mean, I guess. Well, we do in the Joan show. Can I kind of put 2 together just
Sure.
at the same time? She goes with Dick Gregory to go see Lenny Bruce, and I would say there too. I mean, Dick Gregory got very serious, you know, and that I understand it because I go that way, but it's constricting because you move from the arts into politics, so you have to all of a sudden pretend to be normal, you know. And Dick Gregory was always thinking, though. He used to sit at Washington Station, Union Station in D.C., and I was talking to a guy who's at the CD store there, and he was like, "Yeah," he was like, "There's this guy there all the time. He's always reading the papers." And then one day, General Petraeus came in and sat down with this guy, and they were rapping for a few hours, and then Petraeus left, rapping in the old school sense, like, you know, talking. And then someone was like, "You know who that is? You know who that is?" And I'm like, "Who's that?" "That's Dick Gregory." Anyway, so he never quite capitulated to having to parse every word. But I like the sense of freedom, because both him and Lenny Bruce, and this had an effect on Joan, they had that sense of you got to call out the hypocrisy, and so in doing so, you can't be upwardly mobile it's a kind of death as soon as you become middle class. And it's hard because you see it, say, in the 30s movies, Myrna Loy, William Powell, that's middle class.
Mhm.
There are nice things about that, It's nice to have a heat, but...
And a dog.
Well, yeah, and a dog goes after, but it will cripple you because you have to start conforming. You have to, and you start just getting very prissy in yourself. As much as you can reject that, I don't know how. So, yeah. So you want a third one?
Do you have one?
Jesus, off the top of my head, Jesus. Wait a minute. Is there anyone?
Jesus? Well, that's one. But
I guess he was a performer. Everybody's really in show business. Yeah. I guess I'll hang it
I'll
there.
give you a pass if you.
All right.
One of the trademarks of Inside the Actor's Studio. You've seen that with James Lipton?
Yeah.
He does the Bernard Pivot questionnaire.
Oh.
Where he asks the questions. There's a standard set of questions, and then the actor is supposed to answer that question.
Oh.
And I'm going to ask you to do that.
Okay, great.
So
this is going to be an ongoing series.
Yes, this is something that Tony has wanted to have as a through line for all these events on stage. So
It's wonderful.
this is your chance to rise to glory.
Uh-oh.
All right. So something that they're calling the Down and Dirty Dozen, as opposed to the Bernard Pivot questionnaire. So, what is your favorite word?
Clusterfuck. Okay, do you want me to come up with a PG one?
Maybe it's an alternate.
Some alternate? Okay. Oh, gee whiz.
See, this is hard because when the actors who are on Inside the Actor's Studio do it, they're all prepared because they know they're going to get this. And I guess no one gave you a warning on that.
Oh, no.
So this is going to be much more genuine.
Right. Christ.
Okay, we'll stay with number one. Let's not get hung up on it. But what is your least favorite word?
Wait, but can we intersplice this footage?
Sure,
Or,
yeah.
So I can think
If
of
you
one
want
by the
to,
end?
sure.
All right.
What's your least favorite word?
Oh. What did you say? Abattoir. I hate euphemisms.
Okay.
I prefer epithets to euphemisms.
Abattoir, yes, okay.
Yes.
As a vegan, that would be,
Yeah, but that's just one of many,
Okay.
you know.
what turns you on?
Turns me on. Ooh, Percocet.
What turns you off?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I guess, parking tickets.
Good answer. What sound or noise do you love?
Ooh, a dog licking water from a bowl.
Okay, that's okay. Who is your favorite fictional hero?
Fictional hero. Fictional. I like Charlotte Vale from Now Voyager.
Okay.
Do you have that book here? Because I can't find it anywhere. Olive Higgins Prouty, Sylvia Plath's mentor, also wrote Stella Dallas, other books. Why can't you find her anywhere? And she's like $70 online if you want to buy a book. Crazy.
Okay. We'll make a note of that for our book group. Who is your favorite non-fictional hero?
Ooh, I don't really believe in heroes. I guess, there are people close to me that do this kind of stuff, but I did go to Cuba once, and there was a woman there who was working with the dogs, and she had a bunch of dogs in her apartment. The street dog situation there is rough, and people got mad because with dogs there's can be noise and there can be odor, and but you know she was really doing her best, and she was really taking care of it, and they had scrawled "Puta" on her door, and so I guess she's a hero.
Okay. We should ask, what sound or noise do you hate?
What sound or noise do I hate? The silent scrawl of a fountain pen as it signs approval of sanctions.
Okay. What makes you want to swear?
Everything.
Parking tickets. But
Oh, yeah, but it's in a joyful way.
yeah.
You can use language to express anything. I don't think any word need necessarily be condemned to its origin.
What profession other than yours would you like to undertake?
Gee. I mean, this isn't a fun job, and I know it isn't, but yeah, I've known a lot of great veterinarians. It's a rough scene, though, but you know.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that a lot of young kids or teenagers say they want to be a veterinarian, and then they find out it's so hard.
Oh, gosh, yeah, just the school alone, and then
Yeah,
once you got
yeah.
the job,
Yeah.
a lot of sadness.
What profession other than yours would you absolutely not want to undertake?
Oh, everything. Jesus, you know, coal mining, black lung. It's not too.
Okay.
You know, I think they still have the caste system in India
Yeah.
with the untouchables
Yeah.
who clean out the toilets with their bare hands. Bad scene.
No, okay.
And again, not inevitable. I mean, you know, that's something that could go away.
Okay. And of course, there's this famous question, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God, or it would be St. Peter, I think it's Bernard Pivot say, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Nothing's gonna happen. And here's a Percocet. I'm sorry. Deep down, I'm always gonna be white trash.
Do you want to go back to the first question with another answer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A favorite word? Let's see. Okay, favorite word. Come on. Just give me one second. I'm sorry I didn't think about this.
No, I think we might as well let you have the one you wanted, you know?
Oh, no. I don't mean to. And I'm certainly not making light of the opioid crisis. I've never met a Dr. Feelgood, you know? And I'm just so jealous of people who can get a prescription just for the once in a while when, you know, you're... Anyway, just give me one more second. Favorite word. Come on. Furry.
Okay, furry?
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect.
As in, you know that song, Furry Walls, please stick around. Furry walls won't bring you down. The furry walls, the furry walls. It's from Get Him to the Greek.
Would you know how to play it?
That's all I know. I think it's probably 3 chords.
Okay. I'd love to have you do one more thing. It wasn't really on the agenda, but
Yeah.
is there something you can take us out with, either on the piano or the uke?
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
Do you have a request? Does anyone have a request?
A request?
No, nobody. Gee whiz. So what have we been talking about?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, they wanted to do, could we do Ding Dong? Would that be okay? From the
Do
same
we have
album?
time to do one more? Yeah.
Is that okay? All right.
Okay.
My cat died and I quickly poured myself some gin. Did she die from old age or was it for my sins? God, I loved her oh so much, miss her little kitty touch. Does she miss me, does she care? Oh, I miss her kitty stare. Do you have a little time? Would you like to ease my mind? Talk for hours and never stop. Chop your head off, be a lighter person, brighter person, nicer. But you've heard it all before. So ding dong, there's the doorbell. Hello, man in white. He's gonna make you all well, get you through the night. But hey, now you don't feel better as you take your fresh bromide. Maybe this man of letters lied. Let me tell you about a dream I had the other night. You were in it, boy, you sure gave me a super fright. I was walking down the street, downtown by the DMV. You popped out behind a door. It was odd, you're on all fours. Do you have some time to spare? You were barking at a bear. He said, hey, you'd better stop. Chop your head off, be a lighter person, brighter person, nicer. But you've heard it all before. So ding dong, there's the doorbell. Hello, man in red. He's gonna make you all well, get you into bed. But hey, now you don't feel better as you wake and slowly rise. Maybe the smooth jet setter lied. Stick around 1 minute more. I'm smarter than you think. Do I sound like an old bore? Oh man, it's just the drink. I didn't always hit the gin. There were times when I fit in. They'll never know how much I tried. Did I tell you my cat died? Do you have a little time? Would you like to feel sublime? Run away and never stop. Chop your head off. Be a lighter person, brighter person, nicer. But you've heard it all before. So ding dong, there's the doorbell. Hello, man in black. He's gonna make you all well. There's no going back. But hey, now you don't feel better as you drift off in the tide. Maybe this Jack the Ripper lied, and you died. Thank you.
That's another song from her first album, Get Away From Me. 7 albums over 15 years, and several movies and great musical theater pieces, and an endless imagination. Thank you so much for being with us, Nellie McKay. The most recent album is Sister Orchid, and she's appearing at my father's place on Friday.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much for coming out to Inside the Musician's Mind. Very, very special thanks to our special guest, Nellie McKay, and our special guest host, John Platt. Look forward to seeing you all next month at our next Inside the Musician's Mind.